What's up, everybody? It is your doctor here once again in the X layer, everybody's favorite layer, available to help you get through the most difficult time of your life, given that you have the scourge of X-Men statue withdrawal syndrome. Terrible, terrible. I'm here to provide you the treatment that you need in order to at least try to at least get some sleep tonight before, your mind explodes from desire of having more and more X-Men statues. I've been through it. It's a tough time. I'm here to help. Today's treatment, it's a very unique sort of treatment, something that you're not going to find in any conventional doctor's office. This is the sort of thing that you will find like on the black market, essentially. It's the kind of thing that, it hasn't been patented yet or approved by the FDA as a legitimate pharmaceutical treatment. So don't tell anybody about this video. I can get in some serious trouble for showing you this amazing statue of Colossus. Colossus being represented here as he was in the 80's, in which he was shirtless and had the big wrestling World Wrestling Federation Championship belt that was actually just an X belt, which looks fantastic, and wearing his red underwear and boots and his wristbands and nothing else. The dude is just basically naked. And what this represents is an era in which the X-Men are now underground. They're in Australia. There was the Fall of the Mutants storyline that ended with them sort of faking their own death and then moving to Australia. And so it's hot out there, and I'm assuming that's why he became Mr. Shirtless Silver Muscle Man, He looks really cool like this. I mean, his body looks great. All the metallic with the black lines looks great. So it makes sense that to sort of expose more of it and make it look even cooler. I think it does look even cooler. I think it's just a really great sort of characteristic of Colossus that they exploited well and should be exploited more. Unfortunately, no company has officially produced one of these yet. And so there's this whole subculture of sculptors online that kind of just sculpt things on their own, and then if collectors are lucky enough, they just happen to come across what they've sculpted, and they contact the sculptor, and the sculptor may or may not have one available to sell to them. And so that is how I got my hand on this one. This is something that was sculpted actually years before I found it, and I remember just scouring the online forums for just specialty statues that haven't been released of character versions that I was interested in. I was interested in finding a version of Colossus in his 80's pose, because after Bowen Design sneaked their Mohawk Storm Rogue Mohawk Storm statue and their Rogue statue from the 80's, and I already had Havoc, and I was going to get the brown costume Wolverine. I was like, okay, I want to put together a team, but I need Colossus. And so I scoured the internet for this guy, and I found him. And so the guy that sold him, he sold him as just this basic kit is what it's called. And it was just unpainted, and there wasn't much to put together. I think it actually came in one piece. But you can tell, even in the close-up shots, it's not complete. It's a very nice sculpt, very, very nice sculpt. I love it. But there are some parts that aren't completely smooth. The belt is kind of crackly. And there's just parts of it that aren't completely smooth. But that just reflects the fact that it was not a professionally produced piece, professionally in the sense that it's a licensed company. That's the only down part of it. Beyond that, there's a lot of talent that went into producing this, designing it, executing it. I mean, if it didn't look great, I wouldn't have gotten it. And you can see that it looks freaking great. It's a great freaking Colossus statue in his 80's design, which works in my display. It's actually kind of taller than the average Colossus statue, the average Bowen statue, but that works in his favor as well, because Colossus is generally considered to be um, like 7 feet tall or something. So putting him in the I'll eventually post a photo of my 80's display. I don't think I have yet, and you can see that just putting him like next to Wolverine works really well because Wolverine should be really short, and then I have like Storm elevated above him on a riser in the middle to his right. So she looks. She obviously she's the leader. She should be above him, but he doesn't eclipse her because they're not being displayed on the same level. So I've managed to put him in a way that works for the display and kind of masks his slightly out of scale with Bowen uh, stature. This is a great statue to get if you can find it for like an 80's display. But hopefully Bowen Designs will produce a shirtless Colossus at some point in the near future. I know fans online have been clamoring for it, and given that Bowen has sort of produced some 80's um, character designs, uh, it makes sense for them to release it, and I think it would be a big seller if they did it right, which I'm sure they would, because it's hard to get Colossus wrong, and Bowen Designs does a really great job of most of what they release. So I hopefully they'll release that, and then I'll put that one in my 80's display, and I'll put this one in a glass case because it's very cool. So continuing with my story of the statue, I got it. I found it. I had it shipped in its very basic form, which is unpainted, and there were some parts that needed slight, I guess, maybe sanding down or something. I don't know. I had them sent to Robert Guthrie, the guy that painted my X-Force Archangel, the guy that painted my Kotobukiya Warpath, the guy that painted my X-Force Psylocke. So I had him paint this statue. And so he got it, did a few things with it, put some holes in the base, painted the base, and then painted the statue. And I think he did a really nice job. He made some nice choices with like some glossy, like kind of deep red for the red parts, and then the silver looks really nice. And in the face, he did silver, of course, and then kind of outlined the eyes with some black, and then he did like a nice glossy black for the hair, which looks really nice. So the paint job is really good, given that you're not working on the smoothest surface. Because this just wasn't produced in a very refined way, in a perfectly refined way, but produced in a very nice way. And so he did a great job with what he could, and it came out really nice. He actually painted in the black lines as well, which works great. I asked him to do that. It was a lot of work, but it really adds to the final design of the statue. This statue, it's one of those statues that like if you need to position it a certain way in order for it to look really good. And I've taken some good shots of it on that I've posted on my blog post that really I think sort of expose like its great qualities. I mean, you can see it's like really like muscular. And that's great because Colossus is really muscular. He's like a powerhouse, but he's also kind of like, he's like his face isn't like too like kind of stressed like he's because he's a confident guy like as far as like his power goes, his strength. Like he's not really afraid of his adversaries because he knows he can kick some butt. So his face doesn't need to be all like crazy, like I want to kick some butt. Like it can just be like composed and at peace. And so it is on this statue, and it looks really nice, and it complements well like the really huge physique that they sculpted on him. I think I remember seeing a photo online of what the artist was using as a reference for the statue, and I think it was like a Schwarzenegger photo. So like it's I think it's partly based on like a Schwarzenegger bodybuilding physique, which is a great thing to use because it's like that's an exaggerated physique. This is an exaggerated physique, and it works really well. Um, the X base is really nice. It's like nice. It's got like one step, and it's got the red cutouts, and it's very elegant and smooth, and works really nicely. I'm glad they didn't go too crazy with the base. You really just need a simple X base for any X-Men statue, and that does the trick. You don't need too many bells and whistles as far as like the base goes. Um, and then the belt I had him do in gold. Initially I had him do in yellow, but I didn't really like how that turned out. So then he like used like a metallic gold, and it wound up looking very nicely. And then of course you have to paint the X in the middle, which came out very nicely. And the original sculptors did a really nice job of. I think his name is Veritas. I think that's like his handle, the sculptor's handle on statueforum.com, which is I think where I found this. I saw that other people had gotten this statue, and I think that's where I found it. I have to check. But the guy did a really nice job making the X and making everything, making the musculature, like the upper body is just like really impressively done. And I mean, you look at the biceps; it's like so well uh, like proportioned and smoothed out and rounded out. It looks great. The chest, both arms, hands. Love the hands. I took some close-ups of the hands. Like he did a really great job on like just representing Colossus's hands, in the metallic form, which is like it's very challenging to make a Colossus because it's like you need to make a physique that's like perfect and perfectly sculpted, and on top of that you need to make like all these extra sort of metallic-y elements, to sort of capture the design accurately for Colossus. And so he did a great job with this, and I'm glad. Okay, so going to the actual comic. So this is a comic from 1988. This is actually not him in this costume, but this is number 231. And I think this is like a slight precursor to this costume in that he was starting to be shown kind of like without a shirt. Like throughout this issue, like he's just like in shorts. And I think maybe they realized like, oh, Colossus looks really great without like all this like kind of flashy costume, which was his original costume, uh, which is accurate, but I think they finally realized like, hey, he looks really great just like exposing like the his metal body. The more metal body exposed, the better. Just because it's just like a really unique thing, that you have this character with like this metallic body. So here's a couple of like panels of him, like with his sister Ileana, and he just looks really cool. And so I think from here they decide, okay, well let's just keep him shirtless. And here is that was Uncanny X-Men 231. This is number 248. He had already been in this particular costume. So here you can see it's very accurate, like the statue that was produced. And this is obviously for those of you that don't know, this is the first Jim Lee cover of X-Men, Uncanny X-Men number 248. Why, Havoc? Why did you kill Storm? Why? I mean, the only difference is like the armband, like the bracelets. You can see like the edges are red and the middle is gold. But I think that changed throughout. The design changed from one comic to the next, and that's why I didn't go for that. But in this comic, I mean, you have Colossus in this costume, and I think maybe Veritas kind of used a lot of the designs. Like here's the back, and like here's him from the front being thrown for like inspiration for this statue. There he is, kind of being tossed. I mean, these are X-Men. I mean, these are Jim Lee. These are Jim Lee designs, so you know that they're freaking great, and it makes sense to use these images as like an inspiration for a great statue. Um, yeah, so throughout this very important issue of X-Men, Colossus is in this costume and he looks great, and and it's like a time period that's important for the X-Men, and I think warrants like giving it like its own display, and that's what I did. And I was super happy to get this statue to be able to put in there and like enhance like that display, and kind of make it more accurate and more sort of robust to what I was trying to achieve. So here, let me give you another twirl of this guy. I mean, it's just like he's like a great looking statue. Eventually, I'll do some comparison videos of him with the other Colossus statues I have, so you can see the scale differences and sort of, how he fits in with those statues, and sort of, what could be done with just Colossus statues if that's what you're interested in doing. So I think that pretty much covers it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I have plenty more stuff coming. Thank you for checking out my blog. It is X-Men Statues of Future Past.blogspot.com. I've got my YouTube channel, which you're probably watching this video on. It is Dr. Remy LeBeau's X-Lair. And as always, folks, X in the box because ain't nobody checking me. I'll catch you all very soon. Take care and bye-bye.